This is an MPB Think Radio podcast.
Welcome to AutoCorrect, helping you correct your auto problems. I'm Liz Gill with the Lady Auto Mechanic, Allison Walker, ASE certified. Hello, Allison.
Hi, Liz.
I get to see Allison's face for the first time in a year and a half. I'm excited about that. We are lucky enough to have our friend, Ivan Drury, Senior Manager of the Insights Division at Edmunds on the show. Hello, Ivan.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Well, we wish you were in the studio with us, but no, wait. We wish we were with you in Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of nice. I'm not going to lie. Even though it's 5 o'clock in the morning, it's still gorgeous.
Oh, well, then you get to see the sunrise, so that's always nice. All right. Before we get all of the phone calls in the universe, I want you to answer a question for me. We had some callers the other week, and they talked about how surprised they were that the car they had didn't have a spare tire. And, of course, the people that called in revealed this at an inopportune moment. So, that's the thing now. Everybody take notice. You may not have a spare tire. But what I want to know is there a place for you to put a spare tire in the newest cars that are coming out?
So this is kind of one of those things that's been happening in the industry for a little while, and people only find out, of course, at the absolute worst time when they're digging in their trunk looking for that spare, even a space saver spare. This is one where sometimes there will still be the cutout, but in its place, you'll find there's a bunch of foam packaging and a tire repair kit, or maybe you don't have any at all because you have run flat tires. Hopefully, if you have the run flat tires, the line has gone on your dash telling you, hey, you got a flat, get this repaired. But for some vehicles now, you are basically, up to your own devices when it comes to, well, I have to go out and purchase a spare. And some people do. Like, they'll go out and buy, like, a space saver spare. They'll get a jack. They'll get all the necessary stuff because they just don't want to have to deal with trying to repair their tire on the side of the road. And honestly, I mean, it's going to be shocking for some people, like, how difficult it can be, especially if they know how to change a tire, because that to them is so much easier.
Well, we live in Mississippi, and I suppose if you lived in a more populated area, to get Honda assistance or AAA to come out and fix you, that might be nothing. But my kid was driving back from the middle of nowhere and got a flat, and if you need assistance with your car, then that also counts as a ding, as a claim on your insurance. So that was one of the things that caused us to get our Honda Civic in 2017, is we wanted to make sure that we had a spare tire. But buyer beware.
Yes. Definitely do your research first. And honestly, we do track that. Like, it's one of those data fields that comes through. And every year we see an increasing share of vehicles that do not have definitely full size. I mean, those are definitely going out their way unless you're getting a pickup or a full size SUV where the weight's not going to matter. And, one of the automakers, the reasons why they do this is to save weight, styling of the vehicle, the underbody, hybrids need space for batteries, all these other rationale. But, for sheer convenience, yeah, it's definitely much more convenient for those freak incidents where you actually need one to actually have one. But we are seeing that automakers are slowly but surely eliminating, that nicety.
Well, as much as I want to ask you all the dozens of questions I have, we're a call-in show. So we're talking with Edmunds Senior Manager of Insights, Evan Drury. Our email address for questions is auto@mpbonline.org. You can ask about the website and all the great reviews that Edmunds has. And Allison is here with your repair questions. Let's go to the phones and talk with Jackie from Waynesboro. Jackie, thanks so much for calling into AutoCorrect today. What's your comment or question?
I have a problem, and I'm having trouble. They're passing me from one person to another. What I've got is a Honda 2015 CRV. I don't have a sunroof, but I keep seeing a water circle on the driver's side, just about where your windshield comes to the top, and it meets the it's above your steering wheel. And I have another one now, so I talked to my mechanic. He told me to go to a body shop. The body shop said go to the glass shop. The glass shop I just finished, and there's no leak around the windshield. So I'm going to go to the dealer now. Are those leaks that hard to detect? Because there's no loose rubber, there's nothing split, there's nothing broke. I don't see anything. The only last thing I've got to do is go to the dealer. And are those leaks? I've never had a leak in a car. And like I said, this is a 2015. And it shouldn't be. Of course, I don't know what the problem is. Are those leaks that hard to detect? It seems like nobody can find it.
I would be curious about the windshield person that said it's not leaking on the windshield. You can't tell unless you take the windshield off. If my friend Mike is listening in, our local windshield repair buddy, maybe he can call in and say something about that. But I would kind of be curious if maybe the windshield does need to be taken off and re-sealed. But like I said, I don't see how they could have told whether the windshield was leaking or not without taking it off.
Well, they
sure,
did what they call a water test. But when you look at the water rings, it looks like it's coming in from that bar that goes from across the top all the way to the back. It looks like it's coming in from the door. That's where it's sort of angled at. But, the wind can blow it up that high from the windshield. I understand that could be affected that way. And I'm wondering if there's a little drain up there that could be stopped up with something that's not letting the water run down, or I just don't know. But they said they did a water test, and they said it wasn't the windshield. So
okay. I'm not sure if there's a drain there for rainwater to go from the top of your car and through your car. That is something like a body shop seemed like they would be able to figure out. So
well, I talked to a body shop here in Laurel, and they said that they did not do leaks. And so my next thing to do is to go to the dealer. Of course, now they tried to sell me a new vehicle so I wouldn't have to leak it for naturally. I said, no, I've got this baby paid for. We're going to fix it. So it's just hard to tell, According to what it looks like it's coming up above the door and not the windshield.
I would take it to a different body shop. Or call first and ask them about your problem. I'd try different. That one may not check or do leaks, but another one might, and can kind of maybe figure that out. Another thing is like maybe Google the problem and see if this is a common problem with this particular CRV.
Okay.
And
what's that website that you like?
CarComplaints.com. It may or may not be on that.
Okay.
But
Car Complaints.
CarComplaints.com is it's where people put in reviews of cars and problems they've had, and it also lists NHTSA problems that have been told to the government about the cars, and so that's listed on there too. So that's a wealth of information on CarComplaints.com. It may or may not have that on there, but I mean, I would for sure Google it. I'm not real sure, as I'm only so much familiar with CRVs. I generally, I deal with the engine problems and check engine light, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of didn't know who to go to, and I said, well, the car lady's going to know. She can point me in the right direction. So.
I try. I'm sorry. I'm not, for sure. I don't have a for sure hard answer to that.
Well, good luck, Jackie. We hope that you get that all settled out. Let's go now to Pie Talk and speak with Deborah. Oh, Deborah, we're so glad you've called in to AutoCorrect today. We're excited to have Allison in the studio and Ivan Drury from Edmunds.com on by Skype. What's your comment or question?
First, I want to thank you for the show. I listen faithfully. I learned so much my question is, yesterday I took my 2015 Subaru Outback in for an oil change, and when I left, I hear a racket and it's jerking, so I immediately turned around and went back in, and I said something's wrong. Well, they pulled it back in, and he comes back and he says, "I'm so sorry. The new guy drained the transmission instead of the oil." So they had to go find oil for my Subaru, and my question is, did that damage the transmission? After he refilled it, I drove home, and it seemed fine.
We've got a gasp, both.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's so bad.
I was gasping, too.
I think I would not let that guy work for me. But, so, wow, I don't know how he managed to do that. The drain is different. They're not the same. One's like a bolt, the other is like a hex, or it's just set up different. Anyway, well, you may get lucky, and it didn't do anything, and you caught it so fast and came right back that it didn't burn up anything. So, you may be okay. So, but definitely, what I would do is make sure that it's documented what happened. I'd get it in paper or on email or something like that. And that way, if you do have a problem soon, or, within a understandable amount of time, that you can go back and have them fix it if something was to happen. So that you should not have a problem with your transmission for years. So if something happened like in a year or less or so, I would definitely make sure it's documented so you can go back and say, hey, this is what happened to it. You need to fix it. So,
yeah.
Sorry that happened.
To top it all off, he added oil. He hadn't drained the oil, but he added oil. So they had to re-drain it, redo the oil change. It was insane. I was just sick.
Yikes. Deborah,
did you get documentation on all this? Is this all documented what happened? I would make sure.
He had to call in to his higher-ups to tell about it, to be able to refund my money. I had already paid for the service job. So
no, that's not enough. Yeah, I would make sure that and tell them that's why you're doing that. You want documentation of the thing that they did, so you want it in their records, and you want your own record for it. So make sure it, in case you have a problem, because overfilling the engine can cause problems too. So that may not become apparent until later, possibly, or you may get lucky and it didn't do anything, since it was so quickly that you got back. So yeah, I would just make sure you have documentation, and that is in their records too.
Goodness, Deborah, you are in our prayers, and we're so excited that you are a faithful listener. Thanks for calling in.
All right, thank you so much.
If you've got a question, don't forget you can email us, auto@mpbonline.org. We're talking about with our friend from Edmunds, the holder of vehicle knowledge. Is your car under recall? We've got a list of ones that are. In fact, let's go to one email real quick before we take our break. Allison, we got this morning, and I think I've heard you mention it before, so let's see what you have to say to Sophie. She bought a Chevrolet Malibu at 50,000 miles, and now she bought it, it has 150,000 miles now. She's never changed the transmission fluid. The mechanic says now it's too late, that it will release contaminants into the system. What is your recommendation?
So it's I'm not real sure why he said that. What he may be talking to is if you did a flush. You don't want to do a flush on a transmission. We really need a transmission guy, if anyone's listening. We have been trying since we started to get a transmission person. Everyone we know is too busy. Because I only know so much about transmissions. I generally, just know how to drain and fill the fluid. Now, when you do a drain and fill, which is what I would recommend for a transmission service for anyone, you want to do it generally every 50,000 miles, and whether it's been done or not, you want to do it. And you can do the filter too if you want to go ahead and take that step to change the filter and drop the pan. But you're only changing out like half the fluid or a little less than half the fluid when you do that. It doesn't send contaminants all over the place. It cleans it. It's good. It's good to do that for your fluid, because as your fluid gets old, it as it condensates, it gets a little water in it, gets old, it gets debris in it. And these things it makes it where it doesn't flow as good, and it'll heat up a little bit. And as the parts wear, and it just helps keeps your transmission cooler and your pressure's correct in it. So it's still good to go ahead and do what's just called a drain and fill, but not a flush.
Who would ever do a flush?
See, that's where we need a transmission guy, because I've actually heard different things about it. I've heard never do a flush because it pushes contaminants and it'll clog up your filter. I've heard that.
Drain and fill though.
Drain and fill, and extra preventive measures to go ahead and do the filter too, and drop the pan, but at least a drain and fill. So
all right, and we will email Sophie back where we let her know where she can hear her answer on this podcast, in case she's not listening right now. We're talking with our friend from Edmunds, the holder of vehicle knowledge. Is your car under recall? We've got a list of ones that are. You're listening to AutoCorrect on MPB Think Radio.
Hello, I'm Dr. Nancy Lottridge Anderson, president of New Perspectives, a fee-only financial advising firm and co-host of Money Talks. For over 10 years, Money Talks has been answering your personal financial questions and sharing knowledge about money management. Money Talks can be heard Tuesdays at 9 a.m. on MPB Think Radio. Podcasts can be found on our website, money.mpbonline.org, or on your smart device's podcasting platform.
I'm Scott Simon. If you've raised children, you know the best way to address fear is with truthful information, calmly and comfortingly delivered. That's what NPR News always tries to do in times of crisis, too. That old car in your driveway can actually help us. By donating it to this station, you'll turn your car into more solid information brought to you by voices you trust. Here's how.
Donate your car, motorcycle, boat, or RV by going to mpbonline.org.
You're listening to AutoCorrect with Allison Walker, the Lady Auto Mechanic. I'm Liz Gill. If you want even more AutoCorrect, please find our podcast on all podcasting platforms for your smart device. AutoCorrect is heard on MPB Think Radio Thursdays at 10 a.m. with a replay Saturdays at 11. The recalls this week, the recall affects the emergency jacks of model year 2020 and 2022 Encore GX and 2021-22 Trailblazer vehicles. The resolution is pretty clear. Dealers will replace the jack for free. You can find out if your car has a past recall by going to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's website, NHTSA.gov/recall, and inputting your VIN number, or find their Safer Car app. We're talking today with our Edmunds vehicle information guy, Ivan Drury, but we're also taking your vehicle repair questions. Our email address is auto@mpbonline.org. Ivan, tell us something about some of the newest vehicles. I saw on Edmunds' Twitter account that y'all have a podcast, Road Noise, on your website, and it was talking about the return of small trucks. I think we may have even talked about some of the trucks on this show before. Tell us about some of the new 2022 vehicles.
Yeah, so when it comes to small trucks, I mean, we're talking about vehicles that haven't been in the market for over a decade, right? Like, you cannot get an actual compact pickup truck in forever. And the thing is that people still want them. People still love them. So we have kind of two polar opposite entrants coming to the market. There's the Ford Maverick, which is going to launch as base model, a hair under 20K, as a hybrid front-wheel drive. So this is definitely not your compact truck of, yesteryear, and it's going to get about 40 miles to the gallon. So again, nothing like compact trucks from back in the days. It's also a unibody. Again, nothing like the old trucks. There's another vehicle. It's the Hyundai Santa Cruz, and that too is a unibody pickup. It's more of like a Subaru Baja back in the days, if anybody remember, was one of those things where it's got the really small bed, like a 4 foot bed in the back, and it's got a more interesting kind of look, whereas the Maverick's got something a little more traditional. Maverick's also built on that Bronco Sports platform, so it might be kind of familiar to some people who've seen those new little Broncos running around. They're going to be interesting to say the least, because there's a lot of people who have been clamoring for cheap trucks for quite some time.
I know on our show, we definitely have had listeners who want a truck you could stand and reach into and put something in the truck. We have a guy, Auto Casey Williams, and we feature a car review, and he has a video. And, some of these the back of the truck, it's taller than he is. And, if you're a non-6 foot person, you can't even reach into the back.
Yeah, if you're height challenged, it's definitely an issue. And honestly, yesterday I got a flat in my road bike while I was riding out here in Hawaii, and wife came to pick me up. I had to throw all my stuff in the back, which was fun, but at the same time I'm jumping up and down, in and out of the bed of the truck. And for some people, like, it's not as fun. You're not as mobile anymore. Say you're getting a bit older, and it's like you just want a usable bed that's easy to get in and out of. And it's like, unless you're willing to pay for that high trim level truck, like a large, like an F-150 or even a Denali GMC, a 1500, where they've got these trick beds that like have ladders essentially on them too. It's like too much money, right? I mean, for something that you think should be so basic. So thankfully with the Maverick, I mean, it's going to have that much, much lower ride height overall. And then on top of that, those rails on the sides aren't going to be so high that you won't be able to do those things. They're just so much easier in a compact truck. And again, I don't know how bad parking issues are out there, but for anybody who's living in the more or in the urban environment, or like the deeper cities and stuff, having this as an option is going to be a miracle, because those large trucks, parking them in town is quite the hassle.
We've got Shirley called in from Starkville. Shirley, thanks for holding on. What's your comment or question for AutoCorrect today?
My comment is I appreciate your program. It's so refreshing to hear an auto mechanic program that women are at the controls. And my question is, is there a rule of thumb for determining when it's time to get an entire windshield when there's been a ding, or whether just to get the ding repaired? My windshield has a ding that's about the size of a nickel.
Okay. Yeah, you can just get a windshield repairman out to they'll fill in, they'll drill a little hole in the center of that and put this solution in there that will keep it from, more than likely keep it from spreading, so that way you don't have to replace the whole windshield. I'm trying to think of what it's actually called. But yeah, so that is obviously it's a lot cheaper than replacing the whole windshield. So yes, you can get just the little ding fixed on there and more than likely it's not going to spread out.
Okay, well, I guess my concern was if the ding is fixed and then, it later spreads, does that ordinarily happen, or is there a slim chance that will happen?
I'm actually not real sure. I guess Mike's not listening today, or he would have called in already.
Okay, I'm writing notes. Transmission expert and windshield guy. Yeah. Shirley, we'll get in contact with Mike. If you wanted to email us, auto@mpbonline.org, or better yet, we're going to have Jay White put you on. I'm going to put you on hold, and let's get your information, and we can get our windshield guy to call you back, because I know there are star patterns and there are other things, and we'll find out what's best for you. So you just hang on, Shirley, because you're our friend and we want to take care of you. Let's also go to our friend in Gulfport and talk to Rebecca. Rebecca, thanks so much for calling into AutoCorrect today. What's your comment or question?
Well, I have a 2006 Town and Country base model, and every third, fourth time that I fill it up with gas, I pull away from the pump, and it goes into the herky-jerky.
Herky-jerky?
Like it's not getting gas, like somebody has slammed on the brakes in front of me or something, and it does it for maybe 500 feet to a quarter of a mile, and then it's fine the rest of the tank.
Wow, that's
weird. Yes,
it's very weird.
They have changed the filter. They have changed the purge valve. They've fixed the ERG sensor or something or another, and it's still doing it.
Okay. Probably what I would do is definitely, right when it does it, of course you have to catch it when it does it, is to do a fuel pressure test and see if you're having some sort of delivery problem all of a sudden. And is the check engine light on or coming on when it's doing this?
Nope.
Okay.
And it only does it right after I fuel.
Right. I'm really not sure. That's something I would have to research or talk to some of my or someone in my network of car mechanics that may know what's going on. It's definitely something that I haven't heard of before. Sounds like an unusual problem.
And I'm worried about it because my Grand Caravan is an 06, and that's the same thing as the Town and Country.
Right.
Rebecca,
I never had problems with my other Town and Country.
Yeah.
This thing is a special.
We're well aware of the specialness of Dodge and Chrysler products.
Well, this is the show. We're going to give some extra love to our listeners. So, Rebecca, we're going to put you on hold and get your contact information, and we're going to see what we can dig up for you. Okay?
Thank you.
Oh, you're
Appreciate
welcome. Our number is 1-877-MPB-RING. That's 1-877-672-7464. Our email address where you can send questions is auto@mpbonline.org. We're wondering what's coming up for new vehicles, but that's also between your car repair questions. What's in the news? I'm going to tell you next. You're listening to AutoCorrect on MPB Think Radio.
The information presented on this program is meant to provide general information about the topics discussed and is not necessarily the opinion of Mississippi Public Broadcasting. The information presented does not create any type of relationship between the hosts and guests and the listening audience. Please consult an appropriate professional for guidance about your concerns.
If you ever miss one of our locally produced shows or want to simply hear it again, you can find what you need at mpbonline.org or download our podcast app to your smartphone. MPB programming is on your schedule at mpbonline.org.
Get your MPB car tag anytime. It doesn't even have to be up for renewal. Simply go to your county office to sign up. When you get an MPB car tag, a portion of the fee helps MPB continue to educate, inform, and entertain Mississippians. For details, visit mpbonline.org/cartag. We'll see you on the road.
Thank you for listening to AutoCorrect on MPB Think Radio. Allison Walker, the Lady Auto Mechanic, is our expert. I'm Liz Gill. Our guest today is Ivan Drury from the vehicle information website Edmunds.com. I hope you've downloaded our app for your smartphone, the MPB Public Media app. In addition to listening to our show on the MPB Public Media app, you can click on the support button and make a contribution, because contributions help keep our programs on the air for you and for others to enjoy. Thank you for your contributions to Mississippi Public Broadcasting. Remember, AutoCorrect is heard on MPB Think Radio Thursdays at 10 a.m. with a replay Saturdays at 11. Okay, in the news, AutoCorrect had a podcast drop this morning. And Allison, you and I are not on it. Michelle, our show engineer, is the host and the producer for Next Stop Mississippi, heard on MPB Think Radio's Fridays at 10 a.m. Michelle interviewed South Life organizer Roddy Merritt last week on her show, so I snuck out that audio and made a little 5-minute AutoCorrect bonus podcast since, drumroll please, AutoCorrect is going to be broadcasting live from South Life. You got your South Life T-shirt on at Trustmark Park Saturday, July 31st at 11 a.m. And we hope everybody comes to this free event and hangs around while we do our show inside from the stadium. We're talking about new cars today, or whatever you want to talk about. Email your questions to auto@mpbonline.org. Allison, you had a question for our good friend Ivan Drury from Edmunds.com.
I do. So I'm sure you've heard this or talked about it a good bit, but the microprocessor situation So I guess maybe tell everyone what is going on with that, and please tell me when it's going to be over, because it's affecting me getting a race car. So I need to know what's going on here.
You and everyone else, unfortunately. This has been a nightmare, to say the least.
God.
When we were coming out of the pandemic and automakers are finally producing cars again, and they had to adapt to the new rules about, how many people are working on the assembly line, what kind of protective gear, how many people, all these things. They're mitigating all these problems. We never even produced enough vehicles last year when we were coming out of things in that third and fourth quarter to keep up with demand, because so many people became reinvigorated with the idea of, personal transportation matters to me because of safety, or, I just don't want to deal with the hassle anymore of other people. So we never even hit the level we needed to last year. And then on top of that, the microprocessor shortage suddenly starts hitting not just one or two automakers, but virtually every single automaker is now facing this problem.
What is causing that? Why is there? Oh, wait, I did hear the video game makers were taking up all the microprocessors. Is that true?
So that's autos, unfortunately, as important as they are to everybody under the sun, it really only makes up 3 to 5% of semiconductor processor purchasing. So last year, when they canceled, all the automakers canceled their orders thinking nobody's going to buy a car, deep recession, didn't happen. They went back to the chip conductor makers and said, hey, we want to get our chips again. They said, too bad, you're at the back of the line. Your order has been canceled. And when you don't make up a large share of what they are selling, you don't matter as much. And there's a company in Taiwan that makes about 80% of these chips. So on top of, just the ordering process delay, supply and demand issues, they had a drought in Taiwan. you need a lot of water to make these chips. So again,
Oh
it
my
got hindered. Even if you were up for order, it wouldn't matter. You were just essentially, out of it. I mean, they couldn't even make them if they wanted to put you at the front line. And guess what? Your cell phone, your computer, your smart washer and dryer, your refrigerator, everything. That PS5 that nobody can seem to get their hands on for their kid or themselves. All of these things take chips. Everything's on back order. So essentially, you've got new cars on dealers' lots. It's getting harder and harder to find. And the good thing, if you're in the market, and you have a trade-in, your used car value is through the roof. I mean, we see vehicles that are 2 or 3 years old getting close to their original sticker price as their selling price now. And if you can actually find that next vehicle that you want, then you're in luck. Number one, that you can even find it because inventory is so low, but your used car is worth so much that I say, go shop it around to different dealers or to one of those online sellers or to anybody, peer to peer, because that vehicle that you currently own is worth quite a bit. So like our caller with that 2015 CRV, maybe she has to take up an offer from that dealer if she wants to slide into something new because, it seems kind of crazy, but it's like Tacomas, Wranglers, some high trim level trucks and large SUVs. They're commanding near new prices. And that's really because what's the replacement for a car? Not the horse and buggy anymore. Right?
So for the foreseeable future, there are the cars aren't going to be hitting the showrooms in July and August.
You'll see them trickling through. It will not be blowout sales. You're not going to have, we're selling down the model year, summer sell down. All of that stuff's going by the wayside. People are paying on new cars above MSRP or they're paying at MSRP, which is, again, unheard of, right? We assume for certain vehicles, I'm going to get $3,000 to $5,000 off, 0%, right, rebates on top of that. And that's just becoming a thing of the past. And I'd say, in 6 months, you'll probably be able to go out and, have a good selection of what's available. But any version of normalcy in the new car market, we're still looking at like 12 months.
I'm seeing an opportunity here for someone to start raking these chips. I'm just saying.
Well, I think the opportunity is the mechanics because you want to keep your car in good order because you don't want to have to get a new one.
I want a race car more than that.
Let's go to the phones. From Jackson, we've got Edward on the line. Edward, thanks so much for holding on. What's your comment or question for autocorrect today?
Tell Allison my Firebird is still running great. She knows who I am.
Hey, Ed. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Are you okay?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure your Firebird is running good. All we ever do is just maintenance to it, right? It's old Firebird, and he does the transmission fluid and whatever else we did to it.
Yeah. Did you get your race car built up yet?
I'm still working on it. I actually watched a video about how to finish your project car yesterday where they're like, just refuse to quit. And I was like stopping the video and crying. I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to get this car done. Yeah, I'm still working on it.
Well, Edward, what's your question for autocorrect today?
That lady that called in that said when she fills her gas tank up, it chugs for about 500 feet before it starts running.
Right.
Tell her to get a new gas cap.
You think, okay, do you think it's causing like a vacuum leak or something like that, maybe?
Something's going on. I've had to 3 of my friends at work, similar things like that. And, obviously, the gas cap is not sealing off. This is a computer car, right?
Well, it was an 06.
Yeah. OBD2. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. It's not like the old cars I use. But anyway, the gas cap obviously is not sealing off. And it's causing confusion with the fuel pump. And finally, after a little bit of running and everything sloshes around, and that thing finally seals off and then starts running. So just tell her to get a good quality gas cap, and I think that'll probably take care of her problem.
Okay,
Edward,
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate you calling in today. John, Stephen, and Alan, hang on. We've got Edmunds Insight Senior Manager Evan Drury on the show, and we are taking your review repair questions. You can always send us an email. auto@mpbonline.org. We've got a new Tuck review from Casey Williams coming up. It is a behemoth. This is AutoCorrect on MPB Think Radio.
Here's a new car review from Casey Williams. It's Auto Casey on AutoCorrect.
The vehicle we're driving this week is the ultimate combination of capability and luxury. It's the 2021 Ford F-250 Platinum Trimmer Edition. So you've got from the outside, it's all jacked up, got the big wheels on it and tires, all ready for off-roading. Got the running boards all tucked up underneath of it to clear those obstacles. When you climb inside of it, and you will climb inside of it, it's like a Lincoln in there. Heated and ventilated seats with seat massagers, the B&O audio system, automatic climate control, and the full suite of safety gear. Underneath the hood, you've got a 7.3-liter V8, delivers 430 horsepower and 475 pound-feet of torque. That's enough to tow 15,000 pounds, or haul about 4,000 pounds in bed. All very, very capable. And of course, all this is going to come at a price. A base F-250 starts just over $34,000. This one has equipped $73,825.
See the full video on his YouTube channel, Auto Casey, and listen to AutoCorrect on the MPB Think Radio YouTube channel.
Did a contractor ever tell you the price of something and it sounds so high you think, maybe I'll try it myself? Some jobs just aren't that difficult, and yes, you can do it. If you want to find out how to do those things, listen to Fix It 101, podcast everywhere.
This podcast is a local production of Mississippi Public Broadcasting and depends on the support of listeners like you. If you can, please donate today at mpbonline.org. And thanks.
This is AutoCorrect. If you've missed any of our program, you can listen to the whole show on our website, autocorrect.mpbonline.org. AutoCorrect is heard on the MPB Think Radio channel Thursdays at 10 a.m. with a replay Saturdays at 11. I'm Liz Gill, and I'm with the Lady Auto Mechanic Allison Walker, ASE certified. And today our guest is Evan Drury from the vehicle information website, Edmunds.com. I can't tell you how often I go to look at that website when I want information or when I want to look for a new car in the past when I needed to. I'm not going to, no sense in looking. Well, I'm not going to find one right now. Let's take a couple of these calls before we get back to Ivan. Let's go to John in Mobile. John, thank you so much for holding on and for calling into AutoCorrect. What's your comment or question?
Thanks for taking my call, Liz. I had a question for Allison about the mechanics of car repair. Evan said that we're going to have to wait for new cars for quite a long time, so my 2001 Mercury is going to have to do for the next year or so. It needs struts all around. And so what I want to ask Allison is, at the same time I get the struts replaced, can I get the rotors replaced and maybe the brake pads replaced on the front as well, or are those all going to be separate jobs? I've read something about some garages going by the book, so they could break that whole process down into 3 or maybe 4 separate jobs, work orders, or they could replace the struts and put the parts that they remove, replace the parts they remove with new parts. I wanted to ask about that, and also I had a comment about the lady whose Subaru has oil in the transmission. Thank you.
So the what I would recommend is not replacing the rotors or pads unless you actually need them. And when they go to take the tire off to do the struts, they can check it at that time. And the chance of your front and rear going out at the same time is also highly unlikely because of the difference in ratio of braking between the front and the rear. But if they do need replaced, it can take some time off. Like they can charge a little less than they would if it was a separate job. So they because they're already going in, they're in that area. So yeah, they should be able to save you some time if it needs replaced.
Okay, Allison, thank you. And my comment for the lady with oil in her transmission is, I'm not a lawyer now, but contact a lawyer and get, or some person with weight, and get them to send a letter to that establishment and tell them that she means business, because oil in a transmission is a very bad thing, if that indeed is what happened. And
no, they didn't put oil in the transmission. They simply took the oil out of the transmission, so it was low on fluid, and then they added oil to the engine where they had not drained it, so it overfilled the engine. So engine oil didn't get in the transmission. It was just it was so many quarts low, and it of course made the transmission act up, and then of course overfilling the engine with oil could potentially cause a problem there too. So
John, good luck with your struts, rotors, and pads, and we're so glad we've got caring listeners for our other caring listeners. Let's go to Theodore, Alabama, and talk with Alan. Alan, thanks so much for calling into AutoCorrect today. What's your comment or question?
Well, I had a couple of suggestions. Well, I had a suggestion for the lady who's having problems with her automobile after she fills it up with gasoline.
Okay, what about the bucking?
Okay, this is what I'm getting at. What happens, and it can happen with any car, and sometimes it happens because of the place that you're getting gasoline. But commonly, from my experience, I've observed that there'll be a small amount of water that will pool in the bottom of the tank, because the water is heavier than gasoline. And when you fill up with gasoline, it's going to stir things up just enough some will start coming up through the riser tube to the pump and make things go wrong. There's a couple of ways that you can fix that without draining the entire tank. And I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just an individual technician, everything. You can go to any parts store or the supercenter and buy a bottle of what they call gasline antifreeze.
Heat, okay? Right?
Yes, ma'am. I didn't want to call the name.
Oh, you can. Yeah, that's fine. It's HEET.
Yeah, the red is methanol and the yellow is ethanol, or vice versa. Or you can buy a single 16-ounce bottle of Seafoam if you want to be extra safe, and just dump one of those into the tank, and it will blend with that water, and it'll burn that out in a normal manner, and it'll save the person a lot of diagnosis trouble. And then it costs a little bit more, but if you just buy a bottle of Seafoam and drop in there a tank full maybe this week, and then the next time you have to do it again, and she won't have any more problems, and it'll save her a whole lot of money.
Okay. So it couldn't hurt to do that at all?
It will not hurt. The Seafoam is the safest because it's blended with a little bit of oil and a little bit of chemicals, basically lighter fluid, and it's supposed to help. That's the safest thing, but you can use either of the brands of Heat one time to a tank full, and then that will probably take care of the whole thing. And if she wants to be safe, get a bottle of Seafoam the following week and put in there, and she won't have any more problems.
Fantastic. Alan, we appreciate your thoughtfulness and thinking about that. Steve, we're not going to be able to get to you, but I hope that you will send us an email, auto@mpbonline.org. Ivan, we've got 1 minute. Tell us in 60 seconds what's great about Edmunds.com.
Oh, man, I think that if you're in the market for an automobile, new, used, certified, pre-owned, there's not a single piece of information that we do not have, whether or not it's the specifications for, the ride height, the weight of the vehicle, the MPG, but we get very detailed when it comes to pricing your car. I mean, we capture about 1/3 of all transactions that occur out there in the universe of autos, and it comes with every piece of data when someone buys a car, like if they had a trade-in, if they had the APR they paid, every single piece of data that comes through. And we try to make all that available on our website. So if you're out in the market, we definitely have answers for you when it comes to how much should I pay, where should I buy said vehicle, reviews of all kinds, whether or not it's on new vehicles, on dealerships. That's both on sales and service. So if you want to check those things out, it just makes your life a lot easier to do that research beforehand.
Well, and there's also tips and tricks, and I just learned about road noise, which you can find on EDMUNDS, Edmunds.com. Ivan Drury, you are our hero. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
That's going to wrap us up for today's AutoCorrect. Thank you, Jay White. Thank you, Michelle McAdoo. For Allison Walker, who I get to see her face. Ha ha, you don't get to, but I get to. You can see her face at South Life on July 31st at Trustmark Park. Yep. You can also see her face on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as The Lady Auto Mechanic. I'm Liz Gill. Thanks for listening to AutoCorrect on MPB Think Radio.